It was shortly after the Great Water Wars of 2062 when a group of renegade psychologists tasked themselves with understanding what went wrong. Over the course of 30 years, corporations had swiftly taken control over several countries, all competing for absolute resource control. Nukes were soon exchanged, devastating entire cities within minutes. While the psychologists were unaware of the details, they were privy to this general trend of affluent technocrats using government as another form of investment. But why go to such lengths? What could cause such strange behavior? Armed with a stolen office coffee machine and some conference pens, these brave and bunkered academics began discussing and theorizing over their latest addition to the DSM-8, pleonexia. For a diagnosis of pleonexia, two of the following symptoms must be present: the continued acquisition and ownership of an amount of wealth that is severely disproportionate to the amount that any one individual could possibly spend in a single lifetime. B. The uncontrollable and insatiable desire for more wealth despite present net worth. Additionally, three or more of the following symptoms must be present. The obsession with wealth causes significant impairment and distress across several domains, including one's health, relationships, and broader society. Feelings of worthlessness or excessive insecurity that center around financial dissatisfaction. Excessive paranoia and the inability to form trusting bonds. The paranoia commonly manifests as obsessions around losing wealth or having someone take acquired wealth. Aporophobia, a profound fear and intolerance towards those who have significantly lower income or at least appear impoverished. Machiavellianism, deceitfulness, an indifference to morality, and calculated self-interest. Pleonexia is an enduring and inflexible pattern of perceiving, relating to, and thinking about the environment in terms of transactions that center around wealth. The essential features of pleonexia involve having large amounts of wealth and nonetheless feeling financially insufficient. For some, this may be due to social pressure put on by other elites. For others, this need for more wealth may represent some form of protection against perceived threats. Regardless, the path to obtaining such vast fortunes often involves severe and malignant interpersonal strategies, such as manipulation, deception, bullying, and criminality. While some may struggle with feelings of guilt and shame, others will demonstrate a significant deficit in empathy. Unlike other forms of antisociality, however, pleonexia is highly capable of protecting itself from punishment or retribution through wealth. In fact, the primary motive of wealth acquisition is often in the service of altering justice systems to prevent any possibility of persecution. This can result in detrimental political consequences, whereby entire political bodies may be purchased so as to maintain the hoarding process. The erosion of workers' rights and a preference for authoritarianism often coincide with cases of pathological pleonexia. The population prevalence of pleonexia is roughly less than 1% of the current global population. However, the rise in trillionaires over the past decade suggests that there is an upwards trend in diagnosis. Despite the low prevalence, individuals with pleonexia often impact much of the global population. Research on pleonexia is sparse. Social learning theory posits that many affluent individuals are raised in affluent homes, whereby exposure to Machiavellian and transactional dynamics are normalized. Geoeconomics also suggests a link between genes that predict the propensity towards wealth acquisition and disordered personality traits. Sociocultural factors may also play a large role in determining whether such a predisposition develops into pleonexia. Individualistic cultures that celebrate competitiveness and reward affluency with social status also tend to promote an environment that endorses pathological wealth-seeking behaviors. In terms of course, pleonexia nervosa is often characterized by a developmental course of rapid purchases, followed by severe identity issues and substance use as a form of self-medication. Many, however, will quell their anxiety through simply striving for greater wealth. Pleonexia shares similar symptoms with several other disorders, such as kleptomania and hoarding disorder. Here are some others. Some researchers have suggested that pleonexia is a subtype of APD that specifically focuses on wealth. APD and pleonexia both demonstrate a significant disregard for lawful and ethical behavior, egocentrism, deceitfulness, and difficulties in empathy or intimacy. While pleonexia may use philanthropy as a means of signaling altruism, the high rates of lawsuits, criminality, divorces, and affairs suggest that APD and pleonexia share similar costs. Pleonexia is also highly comorbid with NPD. However, those with pleonexia may not necessarily exhibit the grandiosity and social acclaim that is essential for those with NPD. For example, many with pleonexia are comfortable with keeping their identity hidden as a means of amassing further wealth. Nonetheless, both diagnoses represent severe unmitigated agency, in which there is a need for absolute freedom and independence from any entity that is of higher authority. When both present, the clinician should take note of any worrying thought patterns that reflect political ambitions, equating oneself with God, populating the Earth, and a preoccupation with intergalactic travel. While these cognitive features may be considered delusional in the general population, the pairing of grandiose self-appraisal and significant financial means may nonetheless indicate the presence of a direct threat to greater society. While those with pleonexia often demonstrate a pervasive distrust and suspiciousness of others, they usually have a sufficient basis to hold this distrust, due to the largely unpopular and historically damaging effects of their behavior on others. Those suffering from pleonexia are often resistant to intervention and display low insight into their condition. For those that are cooperative, advances in virtual reality technology may be the key. The Scrooge, sensory computer-generated ontological guiding engine, allows for patients to be awakened by virtual representations of the past, present, and future, with each providing realistic experiences that will teach the patient the consequences of hoarding their wealth. Unfortunately, the low insight and widespread damage of those who suffer from pleonexia encourages more prompt action. Historically angered and deprived populations
So long, Mom, I'm off to drop the bomb, so don't wait up for me. But while you swelter down there in your shelter, you can watch me on your TV. While we're attacking frontally, watch Brinkley and Huntley describing contrapuntally the cities we have lost. No need for you to miss a minute of the agonizing Holocaust. Yeah!